Welcome to PlayPianoTODAY.com. This is a quick overview from the piano lesson series titled Tension and Release, Chapter 2. Today we're going to look at a technique that is very simple to do, but it will instantly give depth and richness to your chords. This being the second chapter of the series titled Tension and Release. It has to do with introducing something called dissonance into your chords. Dissonance is like musical stress, and again, like I said in the first chapter, that sounds bad, but it's not. For example, here's some musical stress, which out of context may sound kind of strange until you hear it resolve. Listen to this. Let me give you something very similar. I'm just going to move it down a couple inversions. Now, I could just be playing a straight F chord, an F triad, and that's nice. But if I anticipate it by another chord that introduces musical tension and then it releases, all of a sudden you've got some depth to your music. I'm going to show you a real specific way to do this. It's actually very, very simple, and you'll be able to do this right away. Let's dig into it. For an example's sake, I'm going to take a song that you probably will hear many times in your life at weddings. Sounds like this. It's the chord progression from Pachelbel's Canon, written long ago. Now in just a moment, we're going to take those same original chords and we'll introduce musical tension or musical stress. And remember, that's a great thing, and you'll see how it really brings it to life. But just for comparison, here's the original chords. I'm playing it in the key of C. And the chord progression is 1, the 1 chord, right? The 5 chord, the 6 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Okay, now I'm playing it very simply now. Now, just a quick note, if you don't understand what the 1 chord is, or the 3 chord is, or the 6 chord, those kind of things, you need to go through pattern, piano, and keyboard. That will start you from the ground up, get you running, and get you up to speed quickly so that you can play any song by ear. If you haven't yet done that, head over to PlayPianoTODAY.com. That's the first course listed on our website. Hundreds of thousands of students have gone through that and really found a new love for playing completely free from sheet music. So that's my little spiel, but it's an important one because it builds a foundation. All right, let's jump into the fray now by adding some musical tension, which again sounds terrible, but remember, tension and release creates movement and interest. Before we do that, I'm going to talk to you about something that we also went over in pattern, piano, and keyboard, and that's the concept of inversions. It's a very simple concept. To invert a chord, as you know, means to take the bottom note and flip it up on top. So I'm going to take this C major chord, and I'm going to take that C and instead play it there, leaving the other 2 notes in place. That's the first inversion. Now, this would go off the screen, but if I did it again, took that middle note and put it up on top, that would be the second inversion. You can keep doing that all the way up the keyboard. So I'm inverting chords. They become really handy when you use inversions to make smooth chord movements. For instance, and this is all a preface to doing tension and release in this lesson, but for instance, if you go from C to G, your hand has to hop quite a bit, right? And I'm going to add the left hand here for a little more fullness. But what if I used an inversion of G? So instead of going down to the normal root position of G, what if I used an inversion that would be like this? Look, my right hand is barely moving. And if you look where I'm going, B, D, and G, those are the same notes. Let's take that top note and put it down on the bottom. Those are the same notes as the regular root position G major triad. I've just taken the bottom note and flipped it up on top. So I'm still going between C and G. I'm just using an inversion. Okay, so you're going to see me doing that a lot in this technique of using delay and anticipation to introduce tension and release. Okay, having said all that, now we're just going to study the very first two chords of Pachelbel's canon, which are C major and G major. Okay, so if I use the technique of using an inversion, it would sound like this, which is nice, but we're not always after nice, right? We're after interesting. Sometimes music can be a little too white bread nice, and then it's just nothing but obnoxious. So we're going to introduce some tension and release. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue going the same speed with my left hand, but my right hand is going to be delayed. Because this is just a quick overview of the full lesson, we're going to jump ahead to the section where I'm showing an example of what it sounds like once you put it together and use the right hand to really introduce tension and release into these chords. In the upcoming example, I'll do exactly what we just looked at, delaying that right hand for every single chord so that every time you get to a new chord, it introduces the musical stress and your ear really perks up. But you know what? We're also going to study some additional things in this lesson. We're going to study also some single and double note slides. I'll throw that in as well. And we'll study some funky left-hand techniques. So I'll throw that in as well. And I know by doing all this, it really pulls Pachelbel's canon and blows it out of the wedding music genre. But it's fun to play, and I want to show you how simple this is to really add some life to almost any chord progression that you want to play. Here it is. Nice and funky. Isn't that amazing how that simple technique of... Then the left hand moves to the 4 chord, which is F major. That's one of my favorites. That is so dissonant. I mean, by itself, that would get you thrown in jail. But the right hand is going to move and get a reprieve, get out of jail. And going to the 1 chord, which is C major, but not the right hand. Finally, it moves. The left hand moves back to 4. And the right hand then jumps there. And the left hand moves to 5. Followed by the right. Now here's where you really put the polish on this technique. Instead of just hopping from chord to chord, we'll learn to move smoothly to close chord inversions. Now I know you studied inversions, and you've got them all down. In fact, you know, this is what I'm doing right now is such a powerful exercise. Take simple chords if you haven't yet, and learn to invert them smoothly up and down the keyboard. Your hand almost has to be like a tarantula to get that smooth. Not very funky at this point, but you know what? This is really a fantastic exercise. Incorporate this into your practice routine, and you will not be sorry, because then you'll be able to do what's called smooth voice leading. When folks arrange for orchestral instruments or for voices, like in a choir. Let's jump ahead again. Here's a video clip taken from one of the sections where we're studying some of the real detailed techniques. Which is melody, is always more powerful. It always trumps harmony. So when you've got something going here, this is the more dominant sound because that's where you're going. So you would analyze this as passing tones moving to a G, a simple G triad, and going on. All right, you've got something to take home and work on already. But let's go further. I love to always add some fun to the music because if it's not fun, why are we doing it, right? So up next, we're going to talk about a recap of sliding grace notes, including learning to slide 2 notes at once for a new sound. I talk a lot about sliding notes which is really a vocal technique. I've talked about this in many of my lessons. For instance, let me give you a C major triad, very simple. Especially when you're playing things that have a gospel feel or a blues feel. It's real nice to throw some sliding notes in there. For instance, when you're sliding from the minor version of C to the major version. And then you can do inversions as well. In fact, that's a fantastic study to throw into your practice routine every day. Going up and down the inversions, sliding the minor third to the major third. And then when you add some left-hand comp chords like we've studied in the blues lessons, all of a sudden your toe starts tapping. It's not straight anymore. Sometimes it's not easy to slide. What if you're playing a D major chord? Now the minor third to the major third movement is from a white note to a black note. You can't slide that with one finger unless you get your hand up there, but who's going to do that? You have to be an alien to make that work. When you're on C, it's real easy because the minor third to the major third is a black note to a white note. I have students ask me about this all the time. They say, what do you do? How do you make the slide here? Well, it's real simple. Finally, the last section of this lesson is devoted to a simple technique that will allow you to quickly develop syncopated rhythms with both hands. We're going to do something completely different now. Instead of just handing off to you one specific idea in the left hand, I'm going to teach you a very simple trick that will enable you to put together incredible rhythms with both your hands. Now I know this is going to crack you up because it's been cracking me up as I'm putting it together. We're going to say some Ray Charles stuff, the late great hero Ray Charles on the keyboard. We're going to say, Georgia, it's on my mind. And you're wondering, why on earth are you going to say that? I mean, aside from the fact that that's such a great song. Because that's a device that every single syllable in that phrase goes with this rhythm that I'm going to teach you. Let me just play it up to speed one time between C and G. Listen to this. Georgia, it's on my mind. Georgia, it's on my mind. Now, once again, there is so much material in this lesson. The full version is over a half hour and covers quite a few concepts, including a simple technique that will enable you to take almost any chord progression and infuse it with lush, interesting material, just by learning to delay your right hand movement. This is such a simple technique, but it really will bring lots of color to your playing. In the full lesson, we also look at an expansion of the sliding grace note technique. In past lessons, we've studied how to slide one single note for added flavor, but now we're looking at sliding two notes to bring a more aggressive sound to your playing. One of the most important things covered is how to slide a note from a white note to a black note. With one finger, this is almost impossible, but we work out a technique to get it done well. Finally, in this lesson, we're introducing a technique that is so much fun. It will enable you to easily play complicated, syncopated rhythms with both hands. You'll see how to incorporate a spoken rhythmic phrase, which in turn makes the rhythm on the keyboard very easy to play. Lots of stuff to work through here. My name is David Sprunger from PlayPianoTODAY.com. Thanks for watching this piano lessons overview of Tension and Release, Chapter 2. Now you know what to do. Go practice.